Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Under Construction. This is episode number 67, maybe? I'm your host, Ellis, otherwise known as Trainman or Bombs321 or the Admiral, depending on where you found me. And today, in lieu of doing more copy-pasting, so this is, I think, the last episode before Thanksgiving, because Thanksgiving is pretty early this month. So we're not going to make it up to the edge here. But what we can do is we can start figuring out how we want these rocks to look. And I think we've done a little bit of stuff like this. So let's go over here and see the sort of color palette that we were working with. Alright, so it was a lot of these grays and almost oranges with a little bit of that thrown in. And honestly, this doesn't look half bad. It looks kind of rough from orbit. It looks a little bit too orange. But it doesn't look half bad, so we're going to have to start with this. I don't have any comments this week, at least I don't think I do. I didn't see any new comments. I apologize if I missed yours. Let me just go and make sure. Under Construction 066, I think was the last episode. Grass Along the Highway, I think. No, that was the one before that. Asking about the Iron Horseman Chronicles, and I talked about that a bunch. So this is episode 68. Oh, right, I talked about the midterms last time. Let's see, any comments? Nah. Alright. Shame, I asked some, I thought, rather provocative questions. Oh, well. I need to make the show a little bit more intriguing. I know that it's not as viewer-drawing as perhaps it could be, because honestly, who wants to come here and listen to me ramble for as long as I do? But this week, at least, I have a whopper of a story. Let me see if I can just get this to look decent, and then we'll see about adding more. Because, so recently, you guys may know, I bought a new car. I bought a 1993 Volvo 240 wagon in black, and it was treating me fairly well so far. It was a little bit, it's an older wagon. It's 25 years old. It has its issues, although this past Thursday, so today, if I had recorded this on time, but this is kind of the reason why I couldn't, there was a hell of a snowstorm. For those of you, even if you're in the Northeast at all, you knew about this snowstorm. This was pretty ridiculous, and it came pretty early in the season, all things considered. For something of this weight, really nobody was prepared for it. As far as I understand, the city of New York was basically just totally, not ruined, but clogged up by this storm because they weren't at all ready for it. Similarly in Connecticut, where I was, and in Rhode Island, it was, there were not a lot of plows out on the road. I had coworkers, or one coworker in particular, who was being a snow skeptic, and he didn't think we were going to get much, and it seems like the general consensus with all of the major departments and such, they agreed that we weren't going to get much snow. Unfortunately, or perhaps fortunately, they were wrong. We got, depends on where you were, but where I was, we got maybe 4 or 5 inches at least, and it was some thick, heavy stuff, and it was hovering right around freezing. Now, I had headed out to Glastonbury, Connecticut, for a work event which was in Hartford, and so I went to the Glastonbury office, then I went to Hartford, and then it started to snow, pretty much right as I got there. And I may throw in an aside, which was that I didn't know how to get to this place. It was this bar, I don't remember what it was called, but it was in like the warehouse or industrial district of Hartford. And, it was a pretty nice place. As we got there, it started to snow, but I had come there from the Glastonbury office, and I didn't know how to get there. I had just, I just sort of winged it. And there were other coworkers that were coming the same way or going to the same event, so I just followed them out of the office. Unfortunately, I didn't get to tell them ahead of time that I was going to follow them, and the driver in particular was a little bit aggressive in his Fiat 500, and he took off, and I struggled to keep up. Honestly, if it had started snowing, I probably would have been in a much worse position than I ended up in. Like, I was able to keep up with him, but only barely, and if it had been a little bit snowier or a little bit, slipperier, I'm sure I would have been all over the road. I would have been, just left to right, sideways, backwards, into guardrails, that sort of thing. I'm thinking, right? I'm thinking, and that's not something I do very often, but I'm thinking that I can put some kind of grass on top of this dirt where I can get away with having this dirt. And it's like, okay, but what kind of grass will look best? This? Because this is the grass that we've used pretty much everywhere. Yeah, I think that'll look fine. It looks a little bit darker with the way that that's poised. This is a little bit too dry, I think. The other thing is we can use the other... Hold on, where is a, like over here? Yeah, let's try this. CUK Rock Cover 3. So we have a lot of this area that I think we're going to be able to fill in pretty easily. But anyway, he took off like a rocket in that little, that little Fiat, and I was basically left in the dust. Like, he roared out of the parking lot, and I had to follow him. But I did manage to keep up more or less, kept my distance, but I did manage to keep up. And then it started to snow. So I arrived at the event. I met some people, mostly from ConnDOT, Connecticut Department of Transportation. Had some, like, appetizers, whatever the place has. I don't drink, so I didn't, I didn't have any alcohol or anything. I got a Shirley Temple because that's what I drink. And before anyone says anything about it being a girly drink, shut up. I love Shirley Temples. I'll admit, yeah, it is. I don't care, though, because it tastes good. I love grenadine. And Sprite, and that's kind of it. I don't drink a lot of soda. Honestly, I don't drink a lot of anything that isn't water. Which, if I'm out at a bar and we've got drink tickets, I'm going to order a Shirley Temple, because it's the only thing I ever order at bars. And it's the only, like, that kind of drink that I actually care about. So, anyway. We got there, I had my Shirley Temple, I interacted with people. Wow, amazing, right? Grab that. Thank you. I interacted with some people, and, made some new friends, more or less. Not that I may be working with these people in the not-so-distant future, on projects or whatever, but, on the whole, it was really just like, hello, we work in the same field, let's just hang out and chit-chat. So that was really cool. And I got a phone call from Madison asking me to pick up her friend from work at 9:30. At this point it's like 6 o'clock-ish. And I'm like, sure, no problem. I'll get back to Rhode Island for 9:30. It's like an hour and 20-minute drive. I look out the window and it's snowing pretty heavily. It's a beautiful scene, I've got to say. I do love snow. It's a beautiful scene, and okay, I'm not sure if I'm liking this rocky stuff here. See, I'm not sure how rocky this would actually be, and I feel like maybe... Okay. I may want to look up some inspiration here. Rocky Slopes. Rocky Balboa. Rocky Slopes sounds like a decent band name, if I'm gonna be honest. Okay, so there's this. I'm looking at one that's like, it's got some tufts of grass and some stones. That's not half bad. So this is what? This is the Carpathian Mountains. This is not the same thing at all. This is not where we are. But honestly, it doesn't look half bad. See, I need to get in there with this mud, actually. Oh, come on, come on, come on, come on. You can do it. Okay. So, I decided, I'll give it another, like, I'll give myself a couple of hours to get there. Instead of an hour and 20 minutes. And I checked my phone, and it was like, yeah, it should take, like, 2 hours. I was like, alright, that I can live with. I can do 2 hours. So I'll stay here a little bit longer and chit-chat and whatever. And then I'll leave. And so, but I got another phone call, and it pulled me away from the conversation I was in, and I sort of felt like, you know what? I might as well just get going now because, what am I doing? I'll get back early. I'll have a little bit of a breather, then I'll go and pick her up and bring her home. Easy peasy, right? Easy. EZPZ. And so I went out, I cleaned off my car, I got in the car, and I left. And I went into downtown Hartford to try and find the highway. Now, one of the things was, there was already a lot of snow that had caked up on my wiper blades, and I hadn't cleaned them off very well when I left. I was just like, whatever. I'll wipe the snow off the windshield, and then the wiper blades will just wipe, they'll do their job, basically. They'll wipe the snow off. Not a big deal. But they didn't. And in fact, because it was hovering around freezing, ice started clumping up on the blades. And so it got to a point very quickly where it wasn't really wiping the windshield, it was wiping like a couple of streaks, and the wipers themselves were raised off of the windshield by, half an inch or an inch because of this buildup of ice. And I was like, I gotta stop and fix this. But by the time it got to that point, I had already made it through downtown Hartford and made it out onto the highway and was trying to figure out how to get home. I'd basically made a beeline for the highway as best possible. The highway situation in Hartford is a little bit confusing. If I wanted to go the way I was trying to go, I would have had to cross the Connecticut River first and then go the way I wanted to go second. And that presented some issues because I didn't know how to get across the river. I didn't know Hartford very well. I had looked it up on the map beforehand, and I had a basic idea of where to go, but I didn't have that much information. I definitely didn't have the ability to keep checking. Because, normally I can glance at a map while I'm driving, and it won't really impair me very much, but the car, being what it is, doesn't have a whole lot of traction in the snow. There's a lot of slip sliding that was going on, and I was having a ball, actually. I was enjoying myself, but I still had to pay attention, like a lot more attention than you'd normally have to pay, because of the inclement weather. So, let's see if there's something in between this and the other that I can probably use. Like this. What does this look like? That actually looks not half bad. Spun like that. It just looks like some raw rock. Yeah, that looks good to me. I actually quite like this dirt now. Hopefully I can use this. I didn't check. If not, I'll have to asset replace it with something that I can use. Anyway, so I got honked at a little bit, but I made my way through. I made it onto the highway, realized I was going the wrong way, and so I had to check the map again to figure out how to get around and get the way I was going. I was on 91 North, which leads from Hartford towards Springfield, Mass. And I was like, that isn't where I want to go. I need to get back to Rhode Island. I can't go to Massachusetts. That's the wrong way. And so I had to figure out how do I get an 84 going east? And I already missed that boat. So I had to figure out another way around, or a way to turn around. Every now and then I get a little bit. So I noticed that there was a Route 291 that sort of wrapped around and would drop me back on 84. And I went, alright, we'll do that. And so I did that. I got on 291. Now at this point, like I said, it's been snowing pretty heavily. There are not many people on the road. You can't see lane lines. You're not sure where the shoulder begins or ends. The only thing you can see, it wasn't that heavy and there were street lights, so it wasn't total, whiteout conditions. I could see where I was going, and I could see the other people around me, but I couldn't tell where on the road I was. So it was a little bit of kind of no man's land. It's sort of pass people on the right, people pass you on the left, people pass you on the right, you pass people on the left. It's, you don't know if you're in the shoulder, you don't know if you're in the left lane, you don't know if you're in the middle lane. People are just sort of driving. And, the rules of the road no longer apply. So, I'm going. I'm not disturbed by this at all. I'm just driving. So, I get in line with these bunch of people that are sort of moving off to the right. I assume it's the exit. It is. I get off, go around a cloverleaf ramp, which is a little bit cagey in the snow, trying to keep up with everybody. Because the back is rear-wheel drive. The back wants to swing out and go all over the place. And so I made it down there without too much trouble. None of this was really too troublesome yet, at least. And in fact, I didn't really have any troubles with getting around until after I had gotten off the highway a little bit later. Which I'll get to that, because that's when things really start getting crazy. And, I follow everybody getting onto 291, go all the way down 291, get onto 84. Meanwhile, I'm, both passing and getting past. There are people that are, sort of shuffling along, presumably in, winter mode or whatever on their cars, where it won't let you go over second gear, or they are being overly cautious, or there are the other people who are not being cautious at all and just gunning it. And, that's definitely a group of people doing that, including somebody in a white pickup who I swear passed me twice. I'm quite convinced that they passed me twice, unless there were two identical white pickup trucks with white caps, pretty much driving the same way. They came up behind me, they moved onto what I assume was the shoulder, and they passed me there. So, yeah. It was a little bit nutty. I was, a little bit perturbed by that. And then the amount of semis that were out there was also a little bit alarming. Just the fact that they're big and more difficult to control. It's like, okay, these guys better really know what they're doing. But I wasn't part of any accidents that night, so, spoilers. So it was all good. But I get onto 84. And 84 will take me to Boston, more or less. Because that's not where I want to go. It's not the wrong direction, but it's not towards home exactly. So I have to find another highway. So, yeah. So I do. I look around and I see that, okay, what I can do is I can get down to, if I can get down to Route 6, or Route 44, both of those lead into Rhode Island. If I can get on either of those, I'll be able to get home. Both of them at this point are running more or less parallel to where I'm going. They're running sort of parallel to Route 84, just south of me. So I have to figure out, alright, how do I get from where I am to the south? And unfortunately, it's not far enough south that I could just listen for Dixie and head in that direction. So I had to check the map again. Check the map. Realize that what I could do was get off at an upcoming exit, which I realized I missed a couple of opportunities for this, but get off at an upcoming exit, go down just a road that heads south that didn't have like a route number or anything. I don't think it did, at least. And eventually it would drop me out on either Route 44 or Route 6. Route 44 is farther north, so I'd hit that one first. But it would drop me off where I wanted to go. And I was like, okay, that sounds good to me. Let me get off at this next exit, and I'll be able to go south from here. And so I did. I got off. I don't want cabbage. I want to put something up on here. That doesn't really help much. It does add a little bit, but it does not really help. I kind of would like to put that there, but if only it was a little bit more noticeable. That's reeds. I don't want that. Yeah, carrots, that's what I need. Okay, so I get off. I'm like, alright, let me go and find this, oh, you know what? This? Let me get off and find this, this highway, or this road, that'll take me down to the highway that I need. And so I get off. And I'm coming down the ramp, and don't forget, still snowing like crazy. I'm coming down the ramp, and there are people at the bottom of the ramp that are stopped, because it's a stop sign down at the bottom. But it's quite a decline. And I step on the brakes, and the car does not stop. I step on the brakes, it starts sliding, the anti-lock brakes start, growling or chirping at me, however you want to describe that noise that I'm sure you know, if you've used anti-lock brakes. And, I'm just sliding inexorably towards these cars at the bottom of the hill. I have a moment of, I'm going to slide very slowly into this person's bumper, and then we're going to cause, like, a calamity, because we're going to have to get out and exchange information at the bottom of an off-ramp to a highway in the snow in the middle of the first winter storm. So, I stop, miraculously. I glide to a very slow, relatively uneventful stop behind this guy. He eventually pulls out into the intersection. I pull out into the intersection. It's a very small road. It's a very small, like, sort of backwoodsy road. It's not an artery by any means. It's just one lane in each direction. And I have to go south. So I turn right onto this road. And it's a hill. Oh, it's a hill. It's an amazing hill. I later realized that this road is called Mile Hill Road. Might have been my mistake to try and take Mile Hill Road in the middle of a blizzard, effectively, with an underpowered car. Oh well, here I go. I start following the line of cars up the hill. There are a couple cars in front of me that get stuck and they move off to the right. There are a couple cars on the hill that are already stuck and they've moved off to the right. And eventually I start slipping, I lose traction, and I'm stuck on Mile Hill Road. Now, I am probably about halfway up of what I can see. Like, there are things above me. But most of the people are at the bottom of the hill. There are a couple of people around me, and there are a few people up further, including a police officer, who I assume is there in case somebody runs into somebody else. Because it's not like they were doing very much policing at this point in time. So, there's that. They, nobody said anything, but I had to stop. And so I stopped, and the guy behind me, who, I think he was in a pickup truck, could have been the same guy third time. I don't think so, though. He pulled up very close behind me. I don't think he expected me to be permanently stuck. But I was. And I turned on my hazards, and I had to wait there because I couldn't go forward, and I couldn't go back because he was right behind me. So I just had to wait. Eventually he gave up. He went around me, so into the left lane, into the oncoming traffic, of which there was not much. I later found out why. But he went into oncoming traffic, went around me, and continued up the hill. And he disappeared. So he was gone, he made it. There were a couple of cars behind me. There was one car that was also stuck very close to me. They, I think, eventually turned themselves around and went back down the hill. I think they gave up. I decided, well, let me keep trying, and so I did. I kept trying for a little while. Okay, it's making this hill look kind of furry. I don't really want it to look like that. But I don't know if I actually dislike it. We'll have to press on. In the end, I think most of the ground cover is going to be this. Unless there are too many, unless there are more really rough areas to fill in. I think it's going to be mostly this. So, I decided, well, let me keep trying. And so I did, and I made a little bit of headway, and I rocked it back and forth a little bit. And I moved a little bit. I tried to shimmy over to the right in case somebody else was coming up, which a couple of times other people did come up, and they managed to get by me. But by and large, I wasn't getting anywhere. And alright, well, I don't know what to do. I guess I'm going to have to go back down the hill. And then a plow came over the hill. So, coming the other direction, the reason that there wasn't much traffic is everyone was bunched up behind a plow, which had come up the other side of the hill, and was now coming down my side of the hill. No, the other side of the crest. And was now coming down my side of the hill. And I was like, oh, thank goodness. Look, there's a plow. It's opening up, the lanes or whatever. It only went down that side, so it went down the left lane, oncoming traffic. Everyone bunched up behind it. Oh, okay, well there it went, bye plow. It didn't come back. But I realized, after all those cars passed, there wasn't really anybody else coming. So, I decided that the best choice was to get into the left lane and go up the hill. Nobody's gonna care. I'm just trying to stay in the bit that's plowed. Okay. So I turn the wheel. I try to shimmy over to the left. And what happens when I turn the wheel, put it in reverse, and back up just a little bit is the entire car comes loose and rotates 90 degrees. So now I'm sitting perpendicular to the road, in the middle of the road, blocking both lanes. And there are people coming up the hill. They go, oh, son of a gun. I don't want to be the guy that stops these people, makes them lose all their momentum, and then traps them on this hill, just like me. Okay, so now I guess I just have to go back down the hill. So I cut the wheel the other way, and I turned and I went back down the hill dejectedly. I admitted defeat and went back down the hill. Turned around in a driveway, or whatever, at the bottom of the hill, and then turned around in the driveway, turned back up the hill, and went. And I made it all the way up that hill. There was somebody right in front of me that was doing more or less the same thing. In the left lane, opposing any oncoming traffic, although there was not any, thankfully. And we went up that hill with not that much difficulty, all things considered. Compared to the trouble that we were having before, pretty easy. So, but then we get to a point where we start shimmying back over to the right. We've made it past all the stopped cars, the police officer, everybody. We've made it effectively up the hill, except we're not at the top. We're just past the hardest part, it seemed. We start shimmying back over to the right. I'm not sure if it was because there were oncoming cars, but there may have been. And the person in front of me starts slipping. And I'm thinking, oh no. This guy, he's going to have to stop. I'm going to have to stop. We're both going to get stuck. We're going to have to go back to the bottom and try again. And I'm looking at my clock and going, I'm burning time. It took me a lot longer to get out here than I thought it was going to, and I really wasn't that far in my journey. I might be late. and I didn't want to be late. So I went around him. I felt bad, but I just went into the left lane again, and I just went around him, and I went up the hill. I continued up the hill, and I made it up the hill all the way to a point where it turned into a different street and started coming down. Now, this street was noteworthy because if you're from New England, I'm not sure if it's totally a New England thing. If you're not from New England, you might know this. But there are two things that everyone goes out and gets when a snowstorm is coming. For some unknown reason, passed down from generation to generation, when it starts to snow, you go and get the bread and milk. And I'm coming down this highway, or this road. It's not a highway. It's small. It got narrower and narrower as I went along. Called Bread and Milk Street. That was the name of the street. Bread and Milk Street, which is a mouthful, but that was what it was called. So, I'm going down Bread and Milk Street now. There is literally not a single other person on the road, and I realize that I can't see jack. So, I stop, and I get out, and this is the first time that I stopped and got out and cleaned off my wiper blades. And there was ice caked up on them that was basically raising them almost completely about an inch off of the windshield, except for a couple of small spots. Meanwhile, a couple of people did go by me while I was pulled over like that with my hazards on. Okay, get back in the car, keep going. Not totally sure where I am, but I know I'm going to hit the Providence Pike sooner or later, and that's Route 44, US 44. And so I keep going. And eventually I make it down to Route 44, and I come in to the stop, slide into the stop gracefully, just as I had been doing, with pretty much every other stop sign or light on my entire route thus far. And then I'm checking the map to figure out, okay, Route 44 is great, but Route 6 would be better. I need to go to the middle part of the state. Route 44 is going to drop me, in Providence, which is more middle but more north. So I didn't really want Route 44, all things considered. There were better things. There were better routes to go to. So Route 6 it was. To get to Route 6, I would have to go down Connecticut Route 31. Now, where was that? It was down Route 44. So I took a left anyway onto Route 44. Route 44 was a lot busier than Bread and Milk Street. But it was still pretty open, pretty slow going, and the bonus part is it was pretty flat. So, thankfully, I didn't have really any troubles on Route 44. Eventually, I got to Route 31, and turned off of 44 onto 31. 31 was desolate. 31 was as empty as Bread and Milk Street. It was not very hilly, but what it lacked in hilliness... What? Also, I like how this looks. I might... Actually, I really like how this looks. Although, no, it's too gray. It is too gray. I do like it, but it doesn't... let me see something here. It almost looks like moss or lichens or something like that is growing up the edge of this. And I'm not sure if I like it more, so I might use it. Yeah, I'll keep this here. Anyway, Route 31 had basically no lights at all. And I don't mean like stoplights, traffic control devices. I mean like there were no street lights, nothing. And of course, road reflectors are useless when they're covered in snow. So I had no idea what lane I was in. I'm driving through the backwoods of backwoods of Connecticut. Just navigating by whatever I can see out my windows. It's starting to get caked up again. And things are getting slippery. The snow is really piling up. I can't go too quickly Because if I do, the car will start to pull in one direction or another when I hit a small snowbank or another rut or something like that. Something else that's strewn across, or that's right across the road that presents like a little bump, and it'll try and force or direct the car in one direction or another, and that's not something you want to happen. Because if the back starts to swing out and you lose traction, then you're just going to go sliding in whatever direction. Or worse, if you start to lose traction but you spin or you keep going or anything like that, you can go straight off the road. So I didn't want to go off the road, as you might expect, somebody trying to get home. But I didn't want to drive too fast, but I did still have to keep time in mind. And so I don't think anything really eventful happened on Route 31. It was just like, well, now I'm going. I'm going to pop out at Route 6 eventually, but I don't know where I am. I'm in the backwoods of Connecticut somewhere. And I'm hoping I don't need to stop and get gas or whatever, because everything is shut down. Basically, everything is shut down. It's like Madagascar when you're trying to play Pandemic. It's all done. So I forged on, and eventually I came out to Route 32, which was in Mansfield, Connecticut. And that's where I could find Route 6. So I kept going, I found Route 6, I got on Route 6, it was at this interchange. As I was getting on Route 6, I pulled over into the breakdown lane right as I got on the ramp, because it's more of like an expressway at this point. I pulled over to the side, I got out, I cleaned off my wipers again. Because I could only see like a little 1-inch slit, sort of like I'm driving a tank. And I had made it past some of the more harrowing stuff. So Route 31 wasn't super eventful, but the issue was I was having trouble pinpointing where I was on the road. There was a lot of snow coming down, it was very dark, and my headlights, your headlights when you drive in the snow just sort of illuminate the snow that's coming at you. It's really cool up until you realize you can't see anything else. And your high beams don't help a whole lot with that. They might let you see a little bit farther, but on the whole, they don't really change the fact that you can't see, period. So, yeah, I got onto Route 6. Route 6 had some lights. Route 6 had some other people. And that made my life a little bit easier. So, I got out there. I'm going. I pass everything else that's interesting. The expressway, mostly ends, but it's still pretty open. It's still divided in some places. And then eventually I reach a point where, okay, this is looking pretty good. Although I don't really like this gray down here. Whatever, I think I'll just leave it. Oh, excuse me. Hold on. Oh, my back. Eventually I reached a point where I was heading into Rhode Island, finally. It merges, you go over or under 395 in Connecticut, and then it merges with it because that's the old Connecticut Turnpike, and then you're on Route 6 in Rhode Island. It's nice. The transition, it just sort of happens. You don't have to do anything. So you're on the Douglas Pike, or whatever it is. Danielson Pike, Providence Pike, something like that. Although Providence Pike I think is Route 44, but I'm not totally sure. I said that earlier, but I'm gonna need a source on that. Citation needed, it says up next to my script. So, now I was in Rhode Island, and I called up the person who I was supposed to pick up, and I said, hey, I'm going to be late. I need an extra 15 or 20 minutes, probably, and stay inside, stay warm, obviously, don't go outside. don't go outside and wait for me because I'm not sure if I'm going to be there right away. And right as I hung up, after giving that estimate, I crested a hill and was met with a row of lights. And these lights were the lights of a strange ocean liner sailing on a frozen sea. Okay, what it actually was a pair of semis and a sedan that were trying to get up the hill that I was on, or that I was coming down, and had spread out to block the entire road. And so myself and the other cars that are traveling in my direction, we all came to a stop. Behind us there was a plow, and the plow sort of gave up on that, or decided, nah, I ain't about that life, and just went around us, and then weaved in between the semis to get to, wherever it was going. And I wasn't that bold, and there were some other people still in front of me, and I didn't want to do anything, kind of ridiculous or unpredictable that might cause an accident. I looked over and noticed this sedan had this huge dent in the driver's side door, and I only can assume that he may have slid down the hill and, hit one of the semis or something like that. No, it was pretty bad. Now the semis are both revving their engines, spinning their wheels. This guy's also spinning his wheels, trying to get up that hill, and I just want to get down. So there's another, the minivan in front of me decides to go for it, goes between the semis, and gets out of there. So now it's just me. I decide this is a good time to clean off my wipers again, because nobody else is coming down the hill, and I'm not going anywhere fast anyway. So I do that. Yay, now I can see again. Boo, I still can't go anywhere. Now, there's another issue with this car of mine. And this isn't like, oh, there's something wrong with it. It's, they didn't think about that when they were building it. It's the fact that there is no light or anything that tells you what gear you're in. Now, it's not a manual, so it doesn't really matter as much. But when you're going back and forth between, second, drive, and overdrive, and even first sometimes, when the snows were getting really bad, it's kind of a good thing to know what gear you're in. Especially because you don't want to accidentally put it in reverse or something like that when you mean to be going forward, or when you are going forward, even worse. If you think you're in first, when you're actually in drive, and move it up 2 notches to put it in drive, you'll actually just put it in reverse, and that's not good when you're moving. So yeah, that was that. That, I'm still sitting there at the bottom of this hill, looking at these semis that are coming at me and trying to get around me, but mostly just trying to get up the hill, which everyone is stuck on, except for me. And I realize that there's still some shoulder. There's still some shoulder that isn't blocked. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe I can squeeze through there, but there's a lot of snow on that shoulder, and if I get stuck, even though it's downhill, if I get stuck, I might not be able to get free. Maybe especially because it's downhill. I can't back up to get out of a sticky situation. And it is a lot of snow. I could lose control fairly easily. The Volvo also doesn't have a tachometer, so it can sometimes be tough to tell when you're spinning your wheels. You can tell if you're listening to the engine and feeling how the car is handling, but if you're not being the most astute on those two things, you can be surprised to find out that, oh, suddenly I have no control. Or very little. Or the back is swinging all over the place. Alright. So I guess I'm going to shoot that gap then. Now, I just, as soon as the semi moves a little bit more towards the center of the road, I just decide that, you know what, I'm not waiting, I'm going for it. So I put the car into drive, and I head for the snowbank in the shoulder. And I get into the snowbank, and I get out of the snowbank, or, I'm going, I pass the semi, I go to move back over to the correct lane, and I have no power. The car has no power. I'm gassing it, I can feel it revving, but it's not spinning. I could tell that it wasn't spinning, I just had no power. And then I realized I didn't put it in drive, I put it in neutral. So I had coasted down the hill, which, there went my fears of getting stuck in that snow. Car is heavy enough, it just plodded its own way down. And so then I put it in drive and got going for good. I was really worried that something was wrong there, or that I was totally slipping, or, whatever. Didn't make a whole lot of sense. But now I'm on Route 6. I come over another hill, pretty much the same situation, but at least there's room there for me to squeeze by, and I do. And then what came after that? After that, I just started going. I started moving pretty quickly because the road was fairly open. It wasn't very well plowed, but it was mostly straight, and I was very short on time at this point. So, now I'm concerned with getting there. I give my fare another phone call and say, listen, I'm still going to be late. Nothing's, I'm going to be later now. I need until 10 o'clock. And she goes, okay. I'm like, all right, I'll keep you updated if that changes. And so I get, now I'm out there. Now I'm going. Now I'm making decent progress, decent headway. I'm going 50 miles an hour, which the speed limit is like 55. So, obviously, rules don't matter in the snow. But the speed limit is there for a reason, and in the snow it matters a whole lot more, because in the snow it's much easier to lose control. But I feel like I've got a handle on it by this point. I feel like I've got a handle on the snow. The snow doesn't bother me. I'm going. I'm plowing through these little ridges of snow that are built up in the road, these drifts, these portions of heavier snow, although I wouldn't call it drifts because it's not light enough to move around at this point. The snow is not light enough for that. It's just, it's wet, it's sticky, it's icy and heavy. It's white tar. And so I'm going. And I finally make it through, I go through a couple of lights, one of which I just can't stop for. Like, I hit the brakes and I just slide straight through it and out the other side. Of course, nobody said anything about that. Nobody would. But, that almost happened a couple of times, but most of the time I would manage to stop for these lights and then wait, and then they would turn and then I would keep going. And so I started to really get the feel for how it was going to be in this car, because I'm still on a US route. Speed limit is usually between 45 or 55 unless you're in a more built-up area, in which case the speed limit drops to like 35. And I'm making, I'm going at a decent clip. I'm making good time. There isn't really anything else on my way. Most of the bigger hills I've already passed, and I know the area decently well. So I know, okay, there's a stoplight coming up here, then I go over this hill, and then down this, and then there's another stoplight at the bottom, and, I'm used to it. I understand what I'm going to be hitting. And then I finally get to the area where it interfaces with the interstate again. And this is Interstate 295 in Rhode Island. Saying, okay, we're here now. Also, how long have I spent on this little area? 48 minutes. On this. Looks pretty good, though. Next to a highway, even. Not even next to the railroad tracks. The railroad tracks are all the way over here. They don't get this cool scenery. This basin is one of the most detailed bits of groundwork that I've done on this entire map. And it's gorgeous. But I think, like I said, most of it's going to be that dirt, and I'm going to start, instead of pussyfooting around right now, I think I'm going to start filling in some larger areas with this dirt. So, anyway, now they have some variable message signs up. Slow down, take it easy, it's snowing, that sort of thing. And so I slow down a little bit. There's a cop down at the bottom, again, obviously, waiting to see if people crash. And I stop at the light, I get on the highway. And it's this immediate jockeying for position because it's a 2-lane in each direction divided interstate highway. And that means that with the snow, if you're trying to pass someone, you're going to have a bad time. It's going to be a little bit tricky. So, but I had to. I was running late. I didn't want to lose any more time. Speed limit's 65. And I just want to push 60. I get on the highway. I get around a couple people. And then everyone's in single file. Everyone's in single file following a set of ruts that are more or less in the middle of the highway, but sometimes they're off to the left or to the right. And this area is plowed well enough that sometimes you can even see the lane lines. And I went, oh, that's great. Now I'll just look for when the lane is far over to one side and go the other way. And so I realized a lane here is kind of far. Let me see if I can pass on the right now. I couldn't. There was a chatter strip. I didn't want to drive with the chatter strip going on. Not that it's bad for the car, but it was really annoying. I didn't want to pass on the shoulder of all things. So I waited a little while. The lane moved back to the right, and so I went over to the left, and I got past some people. There's a pretty big hill. The car is doing all sorts of things right now. It's pulling me left and right and up and down, and just generally fighting me. But we're staying in line, and there aren't even that many instances where we really started to slide. So, all things considered, at that point, it was going pretty well. And I got off the highway. I got off too early, so I had to pull a UE at a light, which was fine, because I got off and pulled up to the light. The light turns green to take the U-turn, which is sanctioned at that intersection. And I just gunned it. I gunned it, the back end came all the way out. I spun the car basically 180 degrees around the median, and I went. And it was glorious. It was great. But, I got into the parking lot of the mall there, which is where I was picking my fare up, and had some fun, because everything was covered in, deep, deep snow. I mean, deep, 4 or 5 inches, It wasn't crazy, but it was a lot for the first snowfall of the season. And I wanted to have some fun. Now that all the nail-biting parts had passed, now that I wasn't so worried about crashing anymore, and I was basically there, I gave the girl I was picking up a phone call, and I was like, I'm here, come out of the doors or whatever. And I got out of my car after I'd done some fun stuff in the parking lot, and I wiped off my windshield again. You gotta keep doing it. I also peeled off all of the ice that had formed over the air vents at the end of the hood. They weren't really impeding anything because they're mostly drains, really. But I didn't want to have all that ice build up there. It didn't feel good to have. And so with that, then, she came out, got in the car, we went, and she was directing me to her house, and I'm sliding all over the place. I'm like, the rules don't apply. And I took a left turn out of a thing and crossed at a median. Basically, I drove the wrong way down the road for a very short period in order to not go and find a different exit to the parking lot. Spun my wheels a bunch, figured out how to get back to her house. Had to go around a little bit of a calamity because there were a pair of city buses that were totally stuck at the top of a hill. And so we had to go around a different way. Figured it out. Got her home, it was like 10:45, 11 o'clock, and then I finally started going home. I got home at about 11:30. And on the way to her house, the car had started acting a little weird. And not weird like I'd been describing, weird not responding to the gas pedal, not wanting to shift. And I realized while I was on my way back that the engine was in limp home mode. And I realized that means, bad things. So I wasn't sure if the car was going to start the next day, but I parked in the driveway behind everybody anyway because there was presumably a parking ban because they were going to plow the streets. So I did what I had to do, and I parked there. Thankfully, it did start up the next morning, ran fairly well, and then today I went out and I checked the codes, and it only gave me 1. So this car is a 93. It is it predates your regular OBD2. Now, if you go to, if you have a check engine light on, you go to like AutoZone or whatever, and they'll bring out their code reader and they'll check the codes in your car. Now, this car is too primitive to use a code reader. It just has one flashing LED. And so if you go in there and you push the button, you have to take a little cover off of a panel, plug a wire into a socket, because there are 2 different ones in there that measure different things. 2 different parts of the computer, I guess. 2 different computers, even. You could call it that, if you can even call them computers. 2 fairly advanced calculators that figure out what's wrong with the car. And it'll give you a code. And it'll flash in 3 sequences, and it'll flash either 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 times for each part of the sequence. So I got a 1, 1, 1 out of one of them, which means no error. And then a 1, 1, 3 out of the other one, which means fuel is running either, or the mixture is either running too rich or too lean. And there are a lot of things that can cause that, and without any further codes, I was kind of stumped. And we don't have a multimeter. I wanted to check the O2 sensor. There's another issue that could be related to a head gasket leak, and there was some pressure in the coolant tank, but and a little bit of that milky whiteness underneath the oil cap. And I also realized I was fairly low on oil, so I refilled the oil. And, well, that was done. I cleared the code so that I got the check engine light to turn off and hopefully limp home mode to disable, which it seemed to do. But I'm going to have to take that car back to the mechanic probably on Monday. Now, it's unfortunate, and I hope that it isn't the head gasket, because that's somewhere between a $500 and $900 repair. And it probably is something less significant, like the air mass meter or the O2 sensor or the coolant temperature sensor, something like that. Now, air mass meters. Head gaskets tend to get damaged by overheating. Now, as far as I know, the car did not overheat. But, at the same time, if the problem lies with the coolant temp sensor, the car would not know if it was overheating. And, therefore, it may have been overheating. But that said, it was very, very cold. And very wet. And I doubt that that was the problem. It could have been. But I doubt it. So, I've tried to do the tests I can. If I have time after this, I think I'm going to run out to Lowe's and buy a multimeter and see what I can do. See if I can rule out some sensors. But it's Saturday now, and I had to come in and make this anyway. I'm going to see Grand Funk Railroad tonight, which, for those of you who don't know that band, look them up. I've talked about them before. But that is tonight. I was planning on taking my limousine to it, as Madison's brothers have nicknamed it. Which, everyone seems to have a different nickname for it. I nicknamed it Black Betty. On the title deed, it was actually written in pencil above the, sort of on the top of the deed itself, somebody had penciled Black Beauty, which is another good name. My mother calls it the Beast. And Madison thinks it looks like a shoe, so she's mean. Now, okay, so we've got this area up here. This area is fairly drab. I kind of wish I'd used this. What is this? You know what? I need to see if I can use this texture before I go any further. It is a very, very nice texture, and I am concerned that I will not be able to use it. So, what is this? This is Oz Gravel. I think the Oz textures are fine. But let me see. Oops, that's the wrong thing. Manage content. Sorry for the delay. Oz Gravel. Did I bring water? Oh no, I'm out of water. Yeah, Oz Gravel, it's built in. Okay, good. Thank goodness. I feel like ground textures are some of those things that you don't tend to go and download. You don't tend to go out of your way to find, unless you're looking for something very specific. Although I'm sure there are packs that are, super nice ground textures. Probably JR makes some, that sort of thing. Well, maybe not JR specifically, but people like them. Maybe they do. I don't know. But a lot of textures are on the DLS. In fact, I don't know of too many textures that aren't, aside from ones from, maybe previous versions that for whatever reason are not included. I don't know. I have had problems with that before, but not lately. I believe there were a couple on the Horseman route that were like that, where you couldn't really access them otherwise. Now, I hadn't really intended my car snow drive story. Oh, I did get flipped off for passing somebody on the highway during the snows. I didn't intend for that to last the whole hour, but I don't really have I don't have any questions to answer to, so I don't have much else to talk about. I'd like to more converse on things. We did have, well, I can't talk about necessarily railroad things, because that's saved for the podcast, and that's probably going to be recorded tomorrow. So, yeah, I can't exactly talk about those sorts of things. And now what else do I talk about? What else is going on in my life? Other than my amazing car story and things at work that I can't really talk about because of confidentiality. I'm not usually allowed to discuss work things because we do some confidential stuff, and you're just not supposed to share that information in general. I'm not sure totally if we can talk about like projects we've won or projects we're working on. But, I know we can talk about past projects, at least I think so. But, it's a general rule of thumb to not go blabbing, because loose lips sink ships. And Mason would know this, except I didn't do as good of a job as I could have at spying, but he posted a picture of his side of a battleship board with his girlfriend in our group, and I have her on Skype. So I have information that you may be wanting. Unfortunately, due to the fact that I strongly oppose cheating, I did not share very much of that information. My morals are not so good that I didn't share any of it, but, I figured that he had to learn a lesson that loose lips sink ships, and not to be posting your side of the battleship board in a public group. Well, public-ish. So, shame on him. But he won anyway. So I guess he didn't really learn anything. Maybe he just learned that I'm not to be trusted. Maybe he's right. What is this? What is this? What is that? What's this? What's that? There's something in the air. Okay, so I'm going to finish filling this in. Sorry we're doing pretty much just this. I did want to make this deadline, and starting this area and picking out your textures and your grasses and stuff like that for this area was something that was really daunting. It's something that, I won't say I wasn't looking forward to, because I was, but it was something that I was kind of scared to start, because it's such a massive undertaking. And honestly, so far I think it's come out pretty good. It's just, what am I going to do with all of this empty space? I mean, the answer is, you're going to leave it empty. And that's true. But, you know, from here, this is all going to be trees. This is all, within this area is going to be trees, and then outside of this area is going to be this. And I'm not sure why I'm so yawny today. I got a good night's sleep. Let me get rid of that, I don't know. I don't know what to say. This is a big undertaking, and I'm not sure how much of it I really want to attempt today. Because I know we're not going to be making our deadline, even though I have... well, no, I haven't totally connected them. There are still some areas here. What I could do is, if I build up to here, if I scenic up to here, and then I copy-paste stuff in here, and then scenic over here. See, that's the other issue. With this stuff, it's got to be copy-pasted first, unless it's pretty far from the edge, like right here. So, yeah. This area is rocky enough that it's going to be rocky. Balboa. So, what to do then for the next half an hour or so before I am permitted to start copy-pasting trees? I don't know. I guess we'll go back to Mason's Valley, or Mason Valley, not Mason's. Or up here. What were we doing up here? Oh, that's right. I had to get a turntable. I had to get a turntable, and I didn't. I forgot. I don't even remember what it was called. I'm going to ask Icer. Okay. So, this area, see, I don't know about what to do with this area. I want to put something up here. And in fact, I want to push this back, have this switch come off a little sooner, and have it come like over here. And then have a little, you know, a small industry there. Oh, I wanted to get underneath the bridge. But what I also could do is work on Poughkeepsie a little bit, or whatever this town is going to be called. So, I still don't have a way to get up the mountain. I think right here might be almost it. And in fact, I'm probably, you know what, I'll start drawing out some roads. So, the trolley tracks as it is, they end here. Which isn't going to be, you know, that's not good enough. They're going to go all the way. But I need to figure out, so if you're building this road through here, which they were, you know, they're sort of keeping it a good distance from the shoreline and whatever. Now, there was a footpath first along this side of the river, which is pretty much gone. And in fact, I'll probably add some sort of road that runs along this side all the way down to over here or wherever, but that's for later. In fact, I probably shouldn't really be doing scenery on this side of the river until we start going in that direction. So maybe I'll leave this for another time. I kind of want to start brainstorming. And the one thing that we probably will have are some docks. And so that means we're probably going to have a road that goes this way, right along the waterfront, or set back a little bit from it because of the warehouses, or, you know, whatever. There are definitely going to be barges tying up here. As long as this is relatively flat, there's nothing wrong with doing that. So, put that, and then do this. Having it turn like this is kind of unusual, so I think I'm just gonna have it be like a like this. Yeah, that's a rough how it's gonna look. Split that. So we have these two parallel roads. I want a road that goes up, and it's not going to happen over here. And in fact, this is probably going to get cut short of that for being a main road. Try a road here. Try a road here, maybe. Yeah, let this come right up to the road. Again, I'm just trying to get a picture of what we're doing. Now, this would be like Canal Street, and we're probably going to have some water, you know, like an inlet or something, using maybe, not dig holes, but using a pretty well cut out thing with walls or whatever. That's going to be wide enough to fit barges down. Or, you know, was formerly wide enough to fit barges down. I don't think I'm going to have any drawbridges on this. But, you know, if I raise that area a little bit and put a couple bridges over a, you know, canal-looking thing, then that'll be that. So, what do I want to do with this? I don't totally know what to do with this area. I don't even know what this town is really going to be made of or look like or, you know, whatever. But it is going to be mostly this. Oh, you know what? I think I'm going to split this. Whoops. So split that, and then we'll have this, and we'll have this canal that comes through here, and not a bridge here, just one here. It's like, okay, is this block... This block is definitely big enough. We don't need more roads in there. I think what I want is a road that sort of goes this way, but not very far. Is this far enough back, do you think? This road here? I don't think it is. I think I actually want to move it back farther. Because, think about it, we're going to be putting warehouses and docks along here. We're probably going to cut this back and make it like a straight line. So let me draw that with something. Let me just draw it with black. Black. Black hole paint. Yeah. That looks good, and then we'll have a road that's pretty parallel to that. Like this. That's a railroad track. I don't even pay attention to what tabs I click on sometimes. It's actually not as far back as I would think. I think what I am going to do is... Obviously, the thing that would make sense would be merging these two together. So this is lower Poughkeepsie. Or lower whatever. Alright, now this is supposed to be the road that goes up. And I can probably just send it straight up. Yeah, that's a steep hill, but it's not insurmountable. It's steep, but it's not totally ridiculous or crazy. Alright, so yeah, and it can do that. It can hook around and go up here and then, you know, probably go this way. And there's probably going to be a road that basically does this. And then goes up this way. And then probably a cut right there, and we'll follow that road for a little bit. What I think I'm going to do is put an intersection here that does that. Okay. Oh, you know, I could probably continue that road now. This one. So there, we designed the roads for upper and lower Poughkeepsie. Because of a canal, because of the mountains, hill, or whatever this is. This blockage right here. You know, maybe we'll build a second road that goes around here or something, but I don't see why that would necessarily be necessary. So yeah, we've got that dock. And then the trolley line is going to go this way, up this hill, and around, and down. Yeah, right? Yeah, because that's how it goes. Or, no, you know what? Maybe I could build a trolley tunnel. No, this area is not low enough for that. It would make more sense if I did that. Although, I could probably build a trolley, like, around here. Unless I make this a little bit sheerer, which maybe I'd like to do. Just to have some hefty cliffs right here. I wonder. Because the trolley, so it goes, the trolley is said to mirror the path of the righteous. No. Mirror the path of the old walking road, and I think if you walk, you could squeeze by over here. So, what I might do, what I'm about to do, and see if it looks okay, is something like this. Nope, that's too much. I turn down the radius and the sensitivity a little bit, so I can get these edges to stop being so rounded. These cliffs are generally, if they're a sheer cliff, they're a sheer cliff. I want it to be pretty sheer right to the water. So, anything to make the river wider is probably better. I can make this all look pretty sheer. Yeah, and then I'll do some texturing around here to make it look a little bit more cliffy. Cliffy B. Sorry, I'm being too quiet, aren't I? So, So, yeah. I want to make this cliff-like. There are plenty of instances where trains or roads or trams took the long way around because it was easier. And not building through that is good. Even still, getting down the side is going to be a doozy. In fact, I might even want to raise this a little bit just to be a little bit more sympathetic to my own cause. Yeah, this is going to be something else. It's going to be something cliff, like dual cliff or dough cliff. Yeah, I think dough cliff works. Let me add the name. Runway number. Dough cliff. Because it's like two cliffs, but not in English. Almost. Sort of not in English. Anyway. So we did that. I got my road network for this all settled. Let's straighten it out a little bit. While we're here, let's make it a little bit better. This area's got to get done eventually. So does every area. And this is something that I'm excited about doing. Okay. So there's the hook to get up the hill. So, okay, I'd like to talk for a second about something else that's totally captured me. World War I. Just the other day, last weekend it was, we had the 100th anniversary of the armistice that ended the Great War. That ended the war to end all wars. Obviously, as we know, it was not the war that ended all wars. In fact, there was another one about 20 years later. But with that armistice, with that 100th anniversary, came the completion of the Great War series on YouTube. And I had been, not avoiding the series, but despite everything I'd heard about it, I just hadn't watched it. I wasn't tuned into it. But with the war having been over, I decided, you know what? It's time to watch this show. And I have binged the hell out of it. I found a new thing to play in the background while I'm doing work. And when you've got 3 monitors, all you need to do is put that on one, and voila, you're golden. I've had that thing going. I went from the beginning of the war all the way up to, I think I'm like at the beginning of 1917 in, about a week or so-ish. So, needless to say, I'm really enjoying it. It's a fantastic series. Alright, move that back to where it was. So we're gonna go this way. And then we're gonna go up that, so that's gonna be kind of tricky, huh? But this is where we're at with the trolley line. I think that's gonna be as far as we get with the trolley line today. I did the things that I set out to do. Doughcliff. I think that's a nice name. It's not the most, what's the word? It's not the most unique, but that kind of helps it. What are you, little crane? Crane boy. So, okay, we were working on this area where we were trying to figure out what everything was. And I'm still not sure what everything is. So, this place, this is TNT Express, which it doesn't do anything. It's just got a piece of track, which we're probably going to replace with invisible track or some such thing, because it doesn't do anything. And yeah, so I'm not entirely sure. We do need like a freight house as well for this area. Just a normal one, not even all this stuff. But that's probably going to be like on the other side of the river or something, right? It's got to be. On the other side of at least one river. And we were looking through factory buildings, and I recall wanting to download more, but I probably crashed the game. I mean, last episode did end with crashing the game, but this is something that I'd thought about, right? We don't have any food processing around, and that might be nice to have here. Still not sure what everything's going to do yet, but so this is an appliance factory. This is going to be a sort of a steel sorting place, although it's probably going to do some other things. What did I name the breakers down here? Olaf's Beach. Olaf's Beach Breakers. Okay, that I don't think I can really translate that name into anything up here. I think I don't know. I'm at a loss. I do want some food processing. I do want... This is a textile mill. MV Wool Mill. I'm just going to give it that name for now. I officially parked it over here. Is that what I was doing? Or was I think I'm going to park it on the riverbank over here. Am I going to have like another branch out of here that's distributing limestone or something like that? I don't know. I could always have... So I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking like, okay, lumber. No, we have textiles now. I'm thinking this is going to be what? What is this? Milling company. So this is a milling company. These aren't fabricators per se. These are people that break down metals. And so MV Metals. Yeah, these are going to be like a metals recycler place. And this is going to be MV Metals Storage. It's like, but how are we going to, how are we going to get tracks in and around here? What is going to be the network of tracks? And I think having one that runs through the back here is going to be pretty necessary. In fact, I think I'm going to add let's get like a little platform on here. Okay, so we've got these doors. And I think what I might want to do is actually have a spur that goes here. Maybe with a multiple industry there, just on its own. But the thing is, I definitely want to have stuff, like here. Okay, so this is a little bit tricky. We're definitely going to want tracks that are in here. Probably at least a couple. But the issue is we're so close to this main line. You know, this right here is going to be running this way. So I don't know what I've been told. But big-legged woman ain't got no soul. I think that's... Is that Black Dog? I don't know what... I forget the name of that song. Is that Black Dog? That's Led Zeppelin. It's a Led Zeppelin song. No, it's not. Well, it's not Heartbreaker. I know that much. I don't know. Off the top of my head, I can't tell you. So I think that we can get away with some of these turns. If we connect it, like, back here. But I don't really want to do that. That's pretty far from town. And also, that is very, very tight. Holy cow. I don't know. I don't like it. I don't want to make something that doesn't look right. Unless what we do is we actually wrap it around the back here, but that also doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. I think I know what we're going to have to do. I think what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to slide everything this way. Meaning you, the crane, all these buildings. Oh, you know what? They've sort of got to stay up there. This. So these guys should line up with those stacks at least. And in fact, I think as a little industrial bonus, what I'll do is I'll leave... What am I saying? As a little industrial bonus, I think what I might do is lead some pipes to these. And now there isn't enough room for this. Okay. So do I move this way? Is that what I'm doing now? Now I had some roads planned. I just don't want to... You know, I don't want to mess with that much. So we have, like, down to here now. We just have less room to play. The fact that this line is right here is actually really kind of prohibitive. Oh, goodness. I need to talk more. I'm being too quiet. I'm trying to get through my head what I'm doing right here. So, we're building this. We're building this. Put that there. Just like this. I needed to come out looking right. I need to come out looking okay. If it doesn't, then... Well, I won't be happy. But, I mean, moreover, it won't look right. So, what I want to do, I'm going to push this to this side. Now, originally I wanted to have this a little bit more centered, but I think I'm going to push it over a little bit because that might help my situation a little. Some. Alright, like... Okay, why is this being a problem? So that's... Okay, so we're going to have to start doing some spline height adjustment around here, by the looks. And so fact of the matter is, I don't think they would really build this like this. You know, they would probably find a different way to organize these buildings so that you could get the train in, because you can't right now. You can, and that's kind of an issue. So how would they do it? Well, we've established that this is the basic shape of the buildings that needs to be. Now, we might be able to move this building down to the end of this here, but these are the two main sorting buildings, and then this is like a fabrication building. Now, these two buildings probably have some heavy-duty stuff taking place in them. This is just a warehouse. These buildings... I think I'd rather have, or I'd like to have, a track that runs, you know, sort of through the middle of them, but I don't know how I would even manage that. This has to be on the outside. If we rotate this, okay, so now that we know that we can fit this, what I think needs to happen... Also, the other thing that would be nice is being able to connect it from this side, but that's not going to happen. Or is it? No, that won't work. So I was thinking about rotating this like this, and then having tracks come in here, and then having, like, you can back stuff into here. Actually, that's not half bad. But, you know, so we have this. This is our big ticket item right now. These, if we can rotate them and find a decent spot for them. It's just like we can't, with the way everything is shaped, it's difficult to get things to line up the way we need them to line up. So this train line is coming through, you know, here. It's coming like this pretty much no matter what. And I haven't even done the terrain over there yet. It's coming through here like this pretty much no matter what, although I might have it cross here. I could always do that. I could sort of have the main line cross here. It would sort of violate the way that we have these buildings currently. But if most of the residential stuff is going to be on this side, which I think it will be, then you're going to want the train station to be over here somewhere, right? And I'm not sure if building two bridges is easier. Oh, you know what? I could just do this. Sort of like that. That's not that tight. Also, the other thing I could do is bump this over a little bit more so it has a little bit more of a graceful arc coming in. Also, the other thing is, there's no way that, you know, these industries built the town. MV Metals Sort 1, and I'm going to name this. Okay, so these industries built the town. There is no way that you're not going to have the railroad set up so that it can reach these industries. Now, why is this town so big, and why is it big right here? What is here? The only thing I can really think of is lumber. And that may have been what the original purpose was, because there isn't a whole lot of grazing land for animals. There isn't a whole lot of, there aren't like mines or anything around here. It isn't even that nice of an area. It's just an area. Well, it's just that. It's just an area. So what I would really expect from an area like this is a lot of lumber and sawmills. But that's not what we have planned. So what made this area great? Why are things here when they could be anywhere else? And sometimes those reasons are political, like it was cheaper to build a factory here, but I'm not really seeing it. So, why is it cheaper here? What is here? This is not at the confluence. Well, it's at the confluence of these two rivers, but these are not major trade rivers. It's not like there are a bunch of railroad lines that are splitting out of here. It's just the dead end of a branch. So what's here? This place, it's fairly obvious to figure out what you're going to get. You have a brewery, why not? Because breweries are everywhere. You have a place making food and a place pulling scrap metal out of the water. Those are your two main industries here, and then another little place building boats and a place doing feed and seed. Because you've got resources around you. You've got the water. You've got, you've got fields for grain and corn. For this, same thing. And then over here you just have a beach where you're beaching ships. Those are the main industries in this area. And I don't know what industries necessarily would be out here. Why are all the metals recycling things going on here and not in Bellington, for example? Or even in Mason's Landing? Or, I can accept that that's here. But what really drove this town? Certainly not the textile mills. We're not in an area that's conducive to growing or conducive to farming or, herding or that sort of thing. That's not here. These mountains aren't very mineral rich. The only thing I can think of is like sediments and that sort of thing. Sediments, gravels, sands. But that would not warrant this kind of industry, not even a little bit. So, when you dig into the, what can we put here, you got to think, why is the town here? And I'm not sure if I can answer that question. As much as I would like to, as nice as it would be. So, the town's here because it's here, and it exists where it is because it's at the end of the navigability of a fairly major river. Oh, that's why. So why did mills go to places? Mills went to places because they could be built there. Back before the steam engine, mills existed in places where you had running water. Now, all of the mills in Olive are relatively new because Olive doesn't have a lot of streams that drop altitude. This area did. And still does, but they are, over here instead of down here. So, people were originally drawn here by that fact, and then they were continually drawn here by the ability to build mills here. Well, they were drawn here originally by the ease of building a water-powered mill, and then as commerce was already happening in this area, it drew in other people. Okay, so we have an establishment as to why those things are here. But what kind of mills? Well, what I'm thinking, the only thing I can really think is that the mills originally would have been, textile mills, because you have a lot of potential for growing out towards the water. So we have textile mills, including this one. But also this area is pretty densely forested, so lumber mills? Now, we haven't... There is a lumber mill on the, at the end of the olive branch. There are a couple of lumber mills on the olive branch. But we didn't have a plan for a major lumber mill over here. In fact, it's pretty much 100% textiles. So, I'm not sure what the best course of action is here. Ooh, I just thought of something. If I do this, that means this is going to be parallel to that. All these truck things are going to be over here. Oh, you know what? These are supposed to be like this. So if they're like this, and we get them lined up like that, that means we actually have area here in which to build some tracks that are coming in. Oh, and you know what? I think I'm going to move this building to be more like this. Nope. Yeah, so I'm not sure totally what to do with this, although I'm going to spin it 180 degrees. Okay, so we have the opportunity to do this. Actually, what I'm going to do, just to help myself a little bit, is give these guys a little bit of a tilt. And with that, we may have our final configuration of what this building setup is going to look like. May. Now, I want to have a pair of tracks that run down the middle here, one for each building, and then a platform for either one. These are also supposed to be truck doors, and I'm just not sure about that. So, yeah, this sort of blows my ability to put all these pipes in out of the water, although I could build a building here and connect some pipes to it like that. Is that a hole in the ground? No, that's a shadow. You know what? I'll have this attached. Or not. I could have had it attached. You know what? I could probably still build some sort of little building corridor thing that attaches the two of them. And I still might. So, alright, now we've got a building. It's pretty far away from the tracks. And in fact, we're probably going to want to fill in this area with some other buildings. We have a reason for this town to be here. I solved that one. Although we're still going to have to prove it with the terrain that we build. And with the way that the rivers are going to be set up and probably dammed quite a bit. But we know why they're here, and then we could really just say, it's easy enough to say, that an entrepreneur decided that, this place, maybe his hometown, was the best place to do something like this. And, that's really all you need in a lot of cases. So, there. Now, I want to do like this to get it more or less lined up with that. And then straighten that out, split it, or insert a spline point, straighten it out, and continue straightening, and then right there. Okay. Alright, so we have 3 sidings for this building so far. We have another one that's going to be right here, and I'm not totally sure how that's going to connect, but it is going to connect. I want another one of these sidings in here somewhere, and also space to run around would be nice. But you can't always get what you want. But let's see if we can get what we need. So, I'm going to try to make this work. I'm going to try my damnedest to make this work. I don't want the switches to be too tight. I don't want the curves in general to be too tight. I just need to have that straight section before a switch so that it doesn't look atrocious. Do that and that. Alright, I'm gonna shift things over until they look right. Okay. I need to make this straight. This needs to be straightened out. This needs to be a straight line that we're then pulling this right turn off of, instead of me trying to make the right turn look good first. Right, that's a lot of points in a small area. I think that's fine. We could always pull it out a little more just to make sure it misses this. But, ooh, you know what I could do? And maybe not have it functional, but still have it there? Have this go into one of the... There. Into the warehouse section. Okay, so I need another mill to fill in the gap here. And I think I might know what to do with it. So I'm going to want to grab one of these other mills. So we have these set up. Now this area is pretty tight with the way that these things are set up. And these switches are similarly pretty tight. I think I'm going to pull this out as far as I can in this direction. Like so. That's not really what I was going for, but there you have it. And I'm thinking of having another track that sort of switches back into there. Because I might want to use this track as like a runaround. I might want to merge it into, have that go into there and use this as a runaround. But I'm still not totally sure about doing that. The other thing I might want to do is actually peel something off of here and run it into the back. This is an area that's definitely going to have a track through it. I just don't know if I'm going to keep this building exactly where it is. And I definitely need to move this building, because this building is completely impeding the ability of trucks to get into here. And in fact, I'm thinking of making... Oh, that's not a good spot for it. But I was thinking of making this a fairly major road. So actually, let's pull up a road real quick. Let's start figuring that one out, because I think I have that area pretty good. So, if you have a road that goes this way, and then you have, like, the whole parking lot here, where you're going to have trucks in and everything like that, this crane is not necessary at all. And then you have another road that sort of comes this way, and then scoots along here to here. You have a bridge that crosses here, which is where I would have the bridge. Although, that's probably going to need a draw span. Unless it just goes up real high, which I could always have it do. But I'm figuring this is going to be a pretty major road. Unless I just have it be this one here. Where's the front door on this place? Beginning to think it doesn't really have one. There's a door here. There's some doors here. This is the powerhouse. There's some doors here. This is giving me a Pawtucket feel, so I think I like the way this right here is about to come out. So if I line this up with the road, and this up, maybe I'll give that its own lot, but this is the building that I want to put over here. Because this fills that space really nicely. And it's right in between these two sets of rail lines. So what I'm thinking is if I move that to like over there, and then this is going to be a main entrance, but so this is a crane to hoist stuff onto the second floor. This building isn't really equipped with a way to bring a train up to it properly. But what I think I might do is have a track here and a platform or something for this. And then you can hoist stuff onto the second floor. The other alternative is pushing it right up against the side of the building and using flat cars. The other thing that I neglected just now is the fact that this is here. So I do need to figure out a way to get that to interface with the main line again, which should be relatively easy as long as I bend it off in that direction. I just have to have a diamond right here. Wait a minute. There we go. So, yeah, okay, so we have that. And now I'm thinking... So this is Beware of the Trains. There's got to be a rail line that's... Oh, this isn't part of the building. This is something I added. That's right. That's right. Loading dock. So this is a truck dock. This should be pointed at that. This is... I can always rotate this 90 degrees and sort of move this to here. And then that should do fine. What is this again? A milling company? It's a milling company. I don't know how I'm going to fare with this milling company. I don't know what I'm going to have it mill. Also, what's the point of this pass-through anyway? And what can you even fit in here? That's another question. Can you fit a 40-foot boxcar in here? Okay, you can, but just barely. Okay, I'll allow it. That's fine. It's just a little bit small is all. I know it's how you use it, but damn, dude. You're gonna have to use it pretty well. Okay. So, milling company, will the milling company even be able to use this? I think they go pretty well together. I'm just not sure if I'll really be able to make them mesh. Although what I can do is I can move this up very close to the road, take this, spin it round, and put it out behind the building here. There we go. Maybe it doesn't even use it. Maybe it's... I mean, it's supposed to be an abandoned one, but I can't say no to it. It looks, you know, it looks abandoned, but it might not be abandoned. So let's continue this track through all the way right up to the road. And maybe leave it there. And I think we've hit time for today, but I'm really enjoying our progress so far. This is the fun stuff, you know. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions, cool stories, anything you want me to read out loud on the show and respond to, you can always drop me a comment. Oh, you know what? I meant to talk about something. Listen, I don't remember who you are, but somebody just left a comment on a really old video of mine asking about programming trains, and I wanted to talk about that today, but I got a little bit sidetracked with doing all this, so unfortunately I was not able to talk about that today. Also, I don't think we're going to be able to get this track to come down the road here. I just don't think it's going to be feasible with the way that this is pointing and with, you know, where it is. So we may have to change some other stuff around, but anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next week. Train Man out.